here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat. Bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
Now, alongside those same light attributes of the lover boy or the girl, there's also the shadow side, where these qualities might function as protection rather than an authentic, healthy expression. So the shadow side of the Peter Pan is characterized by the avoidance of the parts of the life that are mundane, challenging, less sparkly, less pleasurable, less magical. And as this relates to life events or life activities, this is distracting from the responsibilities of our adulthood. This is not getting our rent in on time, or avoiding paying our bills, or procrastinating doing the organization or the legwork necessary to build a product or a goal. This can look like wanting only to be in the romantic flow of life rather than to plan it out or make commitments. 5-year plans tend to be excruciating and avoided in order to favor the spontaneity of the adventure of life. And when this is the case, we might pair up or become the archetype of the Wendy, which in the story of the Peter Pan, Wendy was the responsible character. She helped Peter Pan by literally sewing his feet back onto his shadow again. And that part of the story, the irony is not lost to me. Is such a great example because Wendy is the nurturing mother figure. She is the caring female who instinctually wants to protect, provide, especially the lost boys. Like she's literally mothering the lost boys in Netherland. And I see this play out. It doesn't matter what gender you are. I've seen this play out in all of these configurations. Female, male, non-binary, trans. Like I've literally seen this all play out and for all of it. And it's totally okay for you to do. Let me start there. To give us the grace of our humanity. I've had periods of time in my life where this was the case, where I was more of the Peter Pan, or I was also the Wendy. I was also the Wendy a lot in relationships. And maybe you have too. And it's got some consequences that might make it more challenging to achieve the goals in love that you want. So it might be overwhelming because we're constantly avoiding what needs our attention. Or we might end up unconsciously creating a dependency in a relationship, making it hard to leave if it turns sour or if it's just not the right fit. Just some of these thoughts to consider. What's the collateral of being this role? And does that feel good for me? Is that something that I'm consenting to? Now, the shadow version of the Peter Pan reveals that they have poor skills of being able to vulnerably communicate with or be with vulnerability. Their communication skills are more about being able to talk their way around or out of conflict, sweet talking to soothe you, or using psychology terms or spiritual jargon to create confusion. Incongruent words and actions and an inability to hear someone out regarding how hard this experience is or how hard a situation or an interaction was, which again makes it really confusing and hard to date somebody. It's not clear, and you're not getting the efforts from them to hold you in your experience. It's too dysregulating. So they might be saying the right words, but the action is not matching what they're saying. I see this a lot too with intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes they're present and emotionally there, and sometimes they're not. Any of these ways of communicating can leave us feeling really unstable. Now, sometimes we can have two different experiences, and that's okay and healthy and fine when both people can listen and honor and empathize with each other's perspectives. And sometimes we might have to be the one who initiates that vulnerability first, too, in order for somebody else to lean in as well. That's not what I'm referring to here. This that I'm talking about is played out unconsciously, and we're seeing that there's an inability to show up for hard conversations, an inability to take accountability or to hold another person's different experience without shutting them down or making them wrong. The shadow Peter Pan might also express desire for romance and seeking out their person or the one, sounding like they're so available for that. And you're like, yes, that's what I've been waiting for. Yet, here's where it's important to see if, again, they're congruent. Are their words and their actions and their intentions all lining up? Or even who they are dating or who they're drawn to, is that in alignment with what they are expressing that they're looking for? Because oftentimes what we see is that they're drawn towards individuals who aren't available for commitment. Sometimes married, or sometimes people who are in relationships already. And they're going after people who are not available for commitment that can get them stuck again in this fantasy of longing, which can actually preserve a person in a perfect image rather than being able to create the maturity around love with someone who brings the fullness of their humanity, flaws and emotions and challenges, all of it.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex, Love, Psychedelics.